Hey everyone, just wanted to hop on here real quick and let you all know of a great event that I'm going to be a part of, as well as many previous guests on this show. So on Sunday, May 29th, I will be participating in the WAP Stripathon. And if you're thinking wet ass pussy, yes and no. It's going to be a charity stripathon happening at the legendary Penthouse Strip Club, and will be benefiting the Wish Drop-In Center, which is a nonprofit organization based in Vancouver that benefits street-based sex trade workers. Tickets are $20 or $30 at the door, and all proceeds, including stage tips, cover charges, all that, everything is going to charity. We hope this event will sell out, so we hope to see you there. So for more information, follow us on Instagram at Stripathon 2022. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Strip by Sia, your podcast for strippers, sex workers, and all the fancy naked people in between. I am your host, Steph Sia. I'm the host of the show. I host the show every single week, every single Sunday for the past 2.5 years. 2.5 years. And I bring different guests onto the show every single week to help destigmatize sex work. So everything from porn stars, everything from strippers, from people in the back end, producers, clients. I want to do my best in terms of covering it all and trying to be as transparent as possible about the work that we do. And that's just a little bit about me, not even about me, about the show. About me, I am also a sex worker myself. So I am a dancer up here in Vancouver, Canada. You can catch me dancing, not anytime soon. I don't know when, but go follow my Instagram or Twitter and you'll find out when those times will be. If you want to come chat with me and, talk about the show, that'd be really cool. If not, you can also subscribe to my OnlyFans because I'm also a digital content creator. And I was also a sugar baby for a number of years until I just decided I didn't want to do that anymore. And there's more on that in other episodes that you can go ahead and listen to if you want to. But today is not about me, as you know. I actually am excited to bring two people onto the show today. I am pretty stoked because I haven't had a couple on the show in a long time. And when I say a long time, I haven't had a couple on since season 1. And they also had the same initials as our guests today. One of them sharing the same name, which is really crazy and a weird small world. But I am really, really excited to bring Rikki and Jodi on to the show today to talk about all things polyamory. We're going to be talking about different types of relationships. We're talking about weaving sex work in with your relationships, how to separate the two, how to establish your boundaries. And we're going to be just talking about a lot of things today, which I'm really, really excited about. And I'm pretty stoked because Jodi contacted me on my YouTube account, which has nothing to do with sex work, which is really cool. And I'm just like, are you wanting to talk about noodles or you want to talk about my sexy show? So we got in touch that way. Yeah. I'm like, this is my noodle account that I never really check very often. But we made it here. I'm really excited to record with both of you. So a little bit of background on Rikki and Jodi. So Rikki, you might know her as Hoochipapi. She is an influencer all over the web. She is a podcaster. She's also, I think, a dancer, a YouTuber. She does a bunch of things. She rates sex toys. And of course, her counterpart here, we have Jodi, who I thought was a masseur, but he's also going by a manual meditation therapist, which Jodi will so gracefully go into later. But how did I do with both of your intros? I feel like I mangled them a little bit.
You got it right. I'm Jodi, aka Raw.
Rah, yeah.
I am also known as the Black Asian.
Yes.
And I am OnlyFans. Well, Yeah, OnlyFans girl, an adult content creator.
There we go. There we go. And both of you are on the show today to just chat about all the things. I'm really excited to learn more about your relationship, and just relationships in general are tricky. Dating in general is tricky. Some people find it fun. I found it really stressful. I mean, when I was single, I had a lot of fun. But we'll kind of go into all of that, into all the details. But maybe we can start at the beginning. I mean, I'd love to learn from both of you individually, but also I'm curious in terms of like what your origin story is. How did you two meet each other? Like, where did it all begin for both of you?
Okay. Well, I'm from Missouri. I'm just in the state of Missouri, and she happened to live there while she was going to school. She was also a stripper at the time, and I was an R&B singer at the time as well.
Oh, what?
An R&B singer,
Surprise,
yes.
surprise.
And I was pretty popular. She was pretty popular. She was actually known as the lesbian stripper that everybody like. She was just known as a lesbian.
What? Okay,
And,
your stories. We have to hear these stories later on, for sure.
I had a side chick
Okay.
who was mutual friends with her, and I wanted to have a threesome with both of them. But my side chick didn't want to share me,
Mm-hmm.
which made her feel upset because I had several different side chicks. And I have a good taste in women, and she was dating those type of women as well, and they all felt like they were entitled to me. Like, I'm talking to Jodi, and they all shared the same thing, saying I talked to Jodi. So she didn't like that. She didn't like me for a long time. So that was like 8 years ago, 10 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
Right. So fast forward, she ends up moving. She moved to LA, and she's been living here for 8 to 9 years to say that. And I reached out to her on Instagram, slid in her DM.
He's in the DMs.
I slid in her DM, and she was like, "Oh, you don't deal with Rikki." I was like, "Who told you that?" Which was that side girl who I wanted to have a threesome with. So she tried to just run anything. But either way it go, fast forward, we end up meeting in Vegas,
Okay.
and we hooked up then.
What
And
happened in Vegas?
Yeah, what happened in Vegas, it didn't stay in Vegas, I guess. So yeah, so that's what happened. That's how we got together.
Damn. So okay, wow. That was not the story that I was expecting, but I also didn't know what to expect for a story either. Rikki, when did it turn around for you? Like, because you weren't really interested in the beginning. Like, when did that shift?
So when he did DM me, and I expressed to him that I thought that he didn't deal with me, it was more so he was kind of like, let's put that all in the past because that's not the truth. But I'm gonna be in Las Vegas around this time, and when we met, we had good conversation, and that was, I guess, I just learned this, but we were both giving each other auditions. And I guess we passed. And from that point on, we didn't like jump into a relationship. We just were friends. And then we started hanging out a little bit more.
Yeah, every time I came back to LA, we hung out. And we just really friends. Like, even when she was dating other guys, she'd call me and ask, like, what I think on some small advice. So.
Oh. Okay, there we go. Yeah, just
And
chipping
then,
away.
And then we actually got into a relationship once we had our first threesome.
What?
It's like like you seal the deal in the bed. Like,
So that was what sealed the deal, was the threesome that finally happened. I guess I'd imagine like years later.
well, last year. Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
What?
Last year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, but you guys have known each other for so long.
Yes.
So long.
Yeah.
So I mean you have had a little bit of history. You kind of in and out of each other's lives for a bit, and then I guess the stars aligned and we're like, this is gonna happen.
Right.
Do you want to share details about the threesome, or do you want to talk about like what was it that solidified, okay, we're gonna do this for real, we're gonna, be in a relationship? What was it about the threesome that helped
It,
cement that? Because I'm still
well, it
trying to
was
make sense of
prior
that.
to the threesome. She expressed like, once we have this threesome, you're mine. That's pretty much cut dry like it. And we set up boundaries before we talked. We known each other for a while, so we was already understanding each other's boundaries even before we actually had sex. And we just very been transparent with each other from the get go of actually meeting each other in person. Like, that's how we always been. Our communication was already strong first.
Wow.
It wasn't. I mean, I ain't gonna say the threesome wasn't special, but it was just silly. We enjoyed the threesome, of course. But it was like a test moment for the threesome too, because the same night of threesome, she got tired of waiting. We was waiting for this girl, and she fell asleep. And the girl comes in, where I can just have sex with the girl by myself, and if I wanted to. But I went and said, no, we can't do this without her. So I went and woke her up so she can be a part of it.
Yeah, included. Totally. That's a nice gesture, actually.
Very nice. I really appreciated that.
For sure. I mean, Rikki, before we start diving into relationship antics and topics, we want to get to know you too. I don't want to feel like you were overlooked in this story too. So tell the audience a little bit about yourself as well.
I'm the female version of him. I really am. Like, I think with me, I am more talkative. I'm more open to answer questions. I might be a little reserved right now because we did literally 2 different podcasts earlier. So we're like doing shifts. Like, it's his turn to tell the story.
Give yourself a little break.
But I think I'm more of the, how can I say? Am I more like the firecracker, or like, not firecracker?
You're the outspoken bird.
Yeah, I'm the outspoken person in the relationship. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned you were the male version. Or the male. You guys are the same person, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and I'm the female version of him.
The female. Yeah. How do you find balance in a relationship? Because personally, for me, I can never date anyone that's like me. I think I would kill myself. Like, I just it's a lot. It's a lot. I need that balance for me personally. Like, how do you do it?
Honestly, oh man, so he has way more patience than me. I don't have. Well, I have patience, but not as much as he. And sometimes I find myself kind of like getting anxious because it's like, but then he's always like, it's okay. I think that's the one thing that I don't have like him. I don't have patience like him at all.
Well, I mean, here I'm gonna go a little deep on it. So when I say the female version, so it's like yin and yang, right? So yang is feminine energy, yin is masculine energy, but each have a dot of one another in each. So that creates balance as one. So that's why I always say it's more of that. We literally balance each other out, because she still have a little bit of the masculine energy, or I have some feminine energy in. So we complement each other so much that we are one.
Gotcha. Okay, that's making sense to me now, for sure. Going deeper into both of your relationships, I know you mentioned, at least Jodi, you mentioned me early on in our inboxes, in our DMs, we were like, okay, like we're a poly couple. I wanted to just maybe quickly define a couple things before we get into everything, because maybe there's some people listening in the audience that aren't exactly sure what polyamory is, or maybe they have assumptions of what polyamory is. So I'm not sure if either one of you want to define what polyamory is in your own words and terms, or each of you can say whatever you like.
Okay, so for me or for us, polyamory is open communication. We listen first to understand, and then we come up with our responses to each other. We make sure that if something doesn't sit right with us, if we don't like something, or something as simple as I don't want you I don't want you to hang out with this person because I don't feel like their intentions are good. It all starts off with us communicating that.
Oh yeah, that's
So
key.
some people think it's just all about having sex and having all these multiples, but it's first and foremost all about communication. Because one thing, if he's interested in someone, he's coming to me first. If I'm interested in someone, I'm coming to him first. Like I'm not just going straight forward. It's more like, hey, babe. So I like this girl, and she's very sweet. Here's a picture of her, and he'll ask me certain questions about the person, and if I got the right answers, then
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because there's a lot of people that think polyamory is only about sex. They just think it's about sleeping with whoever you want, with however many people as you want. And I think that is the common misconception, or at least one of the top misconceptions I hear of oftentimes. Um, can either of you kind of describe how a poly relationship would differ from an open relationship?
so with polyamory, there's so many types of relationships. So you can have one that's where it's just two people and they bring a third in and date them every so like, 3 months, 4 months, but they're just exchanging. It's like when you're dating, like when one person's dating one person, but in this sense it'd be multiples dating one person. Or sometimes it's someone actually trying couple actually trying to become a throuple or a quad or something like that. And then you have the ones who are having there's a couple and then each of them have their own relationships outside of that,
Mm,
right? So
wow.
that's there's a lot to poly.
Yeah.
So many types of relationships. So I lost my train of thought. What was the
No.
question?
Yeah, no. Like I was wondering, like how does poly, like how do poly relationships different than from open relationships? And now what I'm hearing is that there's so many different subgenres or different categories under the umbrella of polyamory is what I'm hearing. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct. That's correct. I mean, the traditional monogamy is just like you have to be this way, and that's it. You know, and I just see more people not being happy doing that.
Oh yeah.
And
and I'm not taking it's no shade against them. I just feel like if you're monogamous, I think the the rules need to be updated for them more so
for each person.
for each person. I think poly allows you to be more natural and accepting people for who they are and what they love. Because my idea is if you love someone, you love them for what they love, not just because they love you.
And
Oh.
the difference between poly and open is that usually open relationships are relationships that are monogamous. They conduct themselves as monogamous relationships, and both parties are free to deal with anybody whenever.
On a sexual way, more
Yeah.
sex.
But with
It's
poly, I don't have to necessarily have sex with the other person. That's when you learn how to have like intimacy beyond the physical means. You know what I mean? So you can
Oh
be
yeah.
intimate with someone on a mental level or intellectual level. So it allows you to experience others in different ways besides having sex with them. You don't always have to have sex with people.
Right, yeah, no, totally. I think a lot of people just like, again, as I mentioned earlier, just assume that sex is like front and foremost, and first and foremost in poly relationships, which is not. It's, well, I guess how I see it, and again, correct me if I'm wrong because I'm monogamish, so I operate in a monogamist relationship, but I have an open-ish kind of like outlook on relationships because I don't believe that monogamy is natural personally, and this is just my own belief. But when it comes to polyamory and how some of my other poly friends have described it, they're like, oh, well, I'm having multiple relationships with people and I'm falling in love with different people. I'm having like Steve is another one of my boyfriends and Tony's another one of my boyfriends. They all know each other. We're open about it. And I think that's really awesome. I think it's really, really healthy too. And I just think people need to talk about it more as well and just get rid of these old myths and misconceptions that come with it. Because, like sex work, I feel like maybe there's some stigma that comes with being in a poly relationship. And maybe that is coming from religion, that's coming from conservative beliefs. It can come from a number of places. But have either of you ever experienced anything like that when it comes to stigma or discriminatory practices or anything like that in your experience?
Not with a poly lifestyle, but definitely with sex work. But
Ooh, yeah.
most people just, they're ignorant to it, and sometimes they just want to know more. So and then they do say like, oh, it's just the open relationship, and I'm like, no, it's not, because most open relationships, people don't really communicate like that. They're not telling you, hey, so Jodi, I met a girl named Jennifer and I want to date Jennifer and I want you guys to meet. Most open relationships, they're like, I'm going out for a drink with my friend.
Yeah, yeah, I hear that. It's like sometimes they're not acknowledging or including the other person. It's like how I see it sometimes when I hear of open relationships. It's unfortunately like some experiences I've heard have been kind of shady.
Yeah, the serial cheaters.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what they
yeah.
are. I mean, especially in sex work, I think that's an excuse they want to use. Like, oh, I'm poly, and we're having sex, but no, you're not, because you're removing the relationship
The
base of it
emotion.
and the emotion behind it. You're using it as escape, and from the outside looking in, there's probably a lot of people who assume sex workers are poly or in open relationships, but a lot of sex workers actually want to be in monogamous relationships. And I think that's the hard part for a lot of sex workers to date. I think that's, you're searching for people who do not fully understand your lifestyle life,
Right.
and that's where a lot of people run into. You can't want the guy who. Well, I mean, it depends on who it is, but you gotta have somebody who understands the lifestyle.
Oh, totally. And there's so much overlap between poly relationships and also just sex work in general, which we'll definitely get more into that nitty gritty later. But interesting comment I have about what you just said there, Jodi. Do you think because of these misconceptions and assumptions, do you think that sometimes the people that are using poly as an excuse to fuck around, like, do you think that they're just giving people in the poly community a bad name or tarnishing? Yeah, I'm
Yes,
seeing some
I,
nods.
yeah. They yes, they are.
So there was a situation where I was dealing with someone and they were saying that they were poly. And in reality, they were not poly. First of all, they were, I guess, emotionally handicapped because they couldn't have a healthy relationship because they didn't want to be emotionally connected to someone. And when you're in a relationship, emotions are involved. So it got to a point where it was kind of like, are you poly or are you just a cheater? And I asked certain questions and I got my answer. and they're just a serial cheater. And it sucks because this person and other people, they go around telling people, hey, I'm poly, I conduct my life this way, my relationships. So then there's more people coming into this lifestyle thinking like, I can't do poly because it's so selfish. And it's like, it's not. It's just that particular person or those people, those type of people are making it hard because they're really taking up space and lying to themselves and lying to everyone else.
Yeah, that's awful. Like, is this something that either of you have experienced a lot, or like are finding that it's becoming more commonplace, or is it just like here and there that this happens, that you can encounter people like this infiltrating the community?
I think we see it. We see it pretty often in the sex worker world.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot more.
Yeah.
You just see it more, and then it's the communication part. They're not being truly honest. It's mostly the men. I don't see too many women that are trying to pull it off, and I just haven't ran into them. I mean, it could be happening, but there's a lot of men who are doing it because their intentions are not pure.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. If your intentions are pure, then it makes sense. But if your intentions are just like, yo, what can I get out of this? You can't be poly if you're thinking, what can I get out of this?
Right. The I is not part of the equation. It's
No.
like, what can we collectively get out of this?
That's why it's poly and not mono.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It should be simple, right? Well, I mean, going deeper into this topic, like, Rikki, you're mentioning you were asking this person certain questions and stuff too, in terms of like filtering out if they truly are poly or not. Like, what kind of questions are you then asking at this point that is like a surefire indicator, like, okay, this person is part of our community and this person is not?
So you can always get the right answers when you start questioning them about past relationships. So one thing I ask everybody that I tend to deal with on an intimate level. So this particular person, like if they have a special person that's always in their life or they're really prominent in their life, I'll ask like, so with this particular person, you're not with them. So how long were you with them? And if it's like over 3 years, let's just throw a number out there, 9 years. Did you cheat on that person the full 9 years? Like, or was like here and there, or they were lacking something and you decided, hey, let me step out. And I use the word cheat because that's a triggering word. And there's a difference between cheating and your partner knowing that you're dealing with someone else on an intimate level. And, that particular person was just like, yeah, I cheated the whole time. And I was like, oh, okay. And then it was another time where I dated someone and they said, oh, yeah, I cheated. I cheated the whole 5 years I was with my wife and blah, blah, blah. I was like, wow. So that's how you can tell. You just got to ask questions. Don't be scared to ask questions.
And I know what we were mentioning earlier on in the show too, like you mentioned communication is key when it comes to polyamory. Like, what else do you think that makes a great and successful relationship? And like, how do you establish boundaries? How do you combat jealousy? Does that exist in polyamory at all?
Oh, hell yeah. Boundaries, you got to have that conversation. Because if I don't know how far I can go, I could really hurt him and vice versa. So you have to set boundaries. And once again, it's all about communication because he could feel a certain type of way today and maybe 3 months he might change his mind. So you have to just practice that.
You have to do monthly reviews.
Yeah.
I think people forget that relationships require work. Just like your job, or wherever you are, they give you monthly reviews. Any service that you have as a review. So why don't we apply that to relationships? So that's the main thing is communicating, understanding that growth happens, emotions happen. But yeah, the boundaries is the main thing. That's putting it up front and being truthful when you put up those boundaries of what you're into. Because a lot of people, I feel like they fall into the fact of, let me say what I want to say just so I can have what I can have. Their intentions are done out of a selfish manner. Those are those kind of boundaries that they try to place. It's like, I'm gonna put these boundaries up just because I know I can operate around you, kind of thing.
That's called manipulation.
Definitely. I mean, it sounds like pretty simple um, getting into polyamorous relationships. What about when a relationship ends? Is it just as simple as breaking up? Um, like, is it just okay, we're done here, or how does that work?
Well, I think it's communication. Same. I mean, the way you got into it should be the same way you get out of it. You understanding growth through the whole process of like, I no longer want to be part of this. Um, you have to think about each other's feelings, but don't spare each other feelings because once you spare it, you can just still continue that wound and just stretching it out. Putting band-aids on things don't help. So it's the same way, just like, being communicating.
That's really, really key. Like relationships in general, whatever type of relationship you are in, they can be challenging. They they can be really tricky. I was really curious to hear if either of you in any of your relationships in the past, have you ever encountered anyone that has left the poly community before and have gone into a monogamous relationship?
I knew someone who was poly and just found that one person that they felt was their life partner, and they were like, "I'm okay with this person," and that person was monogamous, and they just kind of was like, "You know what? This is my person. This is my human. I don't need to be with anybody else. They give me what I need. They take what they need from me. It's an even exchange." And till this day, I mean, they left LA, they're in New Orleans, they're living their life, have children and everything, and happy. Like from what I see, they're happy. And she's always stated to me like she feels as if she needed to experience it backwards because most people go from monogamy to polyamory. So then she started poly and went to monogamous, and she loves it.
Wow, that's awesome. I just never really hear of those kind of stories. So that's really, really cool. I mean, I didn't ask if either of you have any children too, but I was wondering like what does polyamory look like when you have children, when you have a family? Um, is there a way to talk to your children about that or your friends and family about that? How are those conversations? Because sometimes I know anything to do with family can be challenging. Family politics never fun, so
I
or
feel like
entertaining.
dealing with families, I'm gonna still, if you don't take anything from this podcast, me, is communication. No matter what, no matter how, when we don't communicate, things become taboo. I think that's the part of like when you grow up, like you don't supposed to know about your body or you don't supposed to know about sex, so it makes it taboo, and it makes you feel like now I gotta go on this journey lost, not knowing what's going on. So when you do have a family, you have to talk to your kids. You have to talk to your kids. You talk to whoever you co-parenting with in regards of this is the lifestyle I chose. This is what I believe in, and I don't want you to feel like you can't be yourself either, or you can't believe in these and believe in love in all forms. So that's the part that you have to have. You tell your family, love. If you love me, you love whoever I love or how many I love, because that's what we have to be able to do. Is just love.
I love that. So simple. I mean, families are just complicated sometimes. I mean, have you ever had any backlash from family members, and how do you navigate those conversations? Do you just shut it down and be like, this is me, this is who I am, this is who I love?
So I can't speak for him, but not necessarily. I haven't had backlash about being poly, but I had a lot of backlash for my sexuality.
Mm.
So coming up in the Midwest, that's very, what is it?
Bible state.
Yeah,
Yeah, the Bible Belt.
yes, the Bible Belt, and just a woman with another woman. What is going on? And then once I got older and I'm still finding myself, and they see that I'm dating a guy, they're like, "What? Like, which one is it?" And it's just like, guys, like, why does it matter?
Yeah, why does it
Like,
matter?
yeah. And then me becoming a dancer, that was a big deal. So it was just like, Rikki, why won't you get on board with everything? And I was just like, guys, it's just me. I'm not going to form myself to make you feel comfortable. I'm not hurting anyone. I'm not hurting myself. I'm good. But once everyone started to see, like, she's really good and she's really prospering, she doesn't ask us for anything. That was the main thing. It's like she has it figured out. So now that I do say that I'm poly, they just be like, "Oh, she's just being Rikki. Just let her do her thing. Whatever floats her boat."
Well, you know what? I think that's actually a really good segue to go into the sex work aspect of the show too, because I guess yeah, you obviously received some backlash there. We all know that sex work is highly, highly stigmatized work that we do. Did you want to quickly go into like how you got into dancing, and then how you got into content creation, and then we'll go into like navigating sex work and relationships?
Just how I started dancing, went off to college, and I was like, I cannot work in retail and go to school. And one day I went into a club and auditioned and never went back.
And the rest is
In
history.
between, like, I think I danced for maybe like 7 years on and off, but I definitely, took a break, became like a pharmacy tech and everything, and it was cool, but I was like, the money's not the same. Felt like I had a little bit more free time as
Hmm.
a dancer, got to live life, got to learn a lot about myself.
Hmm.
Then um dancing, once I got to LA, I started to fade out in dancing because the
Hmm.
atmosphere, the environment wasn't working well with my mental health.
Okay.
Because it can get real catty, and I
Yes.
was turning into somebody that I did not want to be. So I just stopped,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
I was just doing regular content creating, safe for work content creating, and then all of a sudden, OnlyFans came about. So I jumped on the bandwagon really fast before it was actually a bandwagon, and I was like, man, I could just turn my living room into a strip club,
Yep.
and started getting followers, and they would come from YouTube because I was in the sketch world.
Oh,
Yeah.
this is how it's
So then,
all connecting. Okay.
yeah. So then they will all like migrate over. Then I would like, just be on Instagram talking my shit, and people were like, yeah, we like you. She's pretty, she's smart, and she likes to be naked.
The cherry on top.
Right. So I think I got more backlash as a stripper. Now doing the adult content creating, I think people they just be like, that's just Rikki. Just let her do her thing. She's really not hurting anyone.
Yeah.
And that's just I like that. I like that I could be naked. Like, I wish I could go outside and just be naked, but I could just be naked on the computer.
Well, that's quite a journey. I mean, moving from the Midwest to LA is a bit of a jump. And you mentioned the atmosphere in the West Coast, in LA particularly, was very different. What were the major differences that you found? Was it just like the club environment was completely different? The people in general on the West Coast really different, or like more catty, or
So I feel like I was built for LA and not necessarily for the Midwest. So when I came out here, I felt like I was where I'm supposed to be. But I did learn a lot. Like, okay, so people out here, you have to find your tribe because everyone's not the same. But there's so many different types of people here. And you don't even have to be a part of one tribe. You could be a part of several, but you just have to have that time and space to be around them. So, one, I love that you can just find who you need to be around, your tribe. Two, the weather. Come on
yeah.
now. I love the weather. And three, it's a creative place. Everyone's open minded. There's a lane for anything. There's a lane for anything. If you want to make clothes, you can find that. You can find someone to teach you how to make clothes or help you out. If you want to be a stylist, you can be a stylist. If you want to be a stripper, there's a whole group of people who are strippers. So, and now they have like content creating houses.
Yeah, I
So
know.
if you're not comfortable doing it at home, or if you still live with your parents, or you have roommates and you're not comfortable squirting in the house, you can go to a content creator house and do
I
what
think
you
that's
have
so
to
cool.
do.
I think that's super cool. And yeah, LA definitely has that, the energy, and like a lot of people are drawn to the West Coast too for so many different reasons, but it's because the energy is there, and it's just like we're all here with the same reason, so it just like manifests, right? Um I know, Jody, you've been waiting patiently to talk to.
No.
When's my turn? No, I was kidding. But I want to kind of steer us back to in terms of Rikki's sex work and your relationship. Was that ever an issue at all? Because sometimes it is for some people, or people. Yeah, she's shaking her head here. No, it ain't. But I know, like, because I've personally had this experience too, where I've had partners in the past saying, "Okay, I'm okay with what you do." I tell them early on. They say they're okay with it, and then down the line it becomes an issue, and I'm just like, I communicated this with you from the beginning. Why is this all of a sudden a problem? um it Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I think it goes back to saying what you need to say to get what you need to get. So I think a lot of people who like, oh, I support this lifestyle. Usually they're just really fans of a lifestyle, right? Based is understanding a lifestyle.
Mm.
And I knew who she was before we knew who each other were before we got started dealing with each other. So I'm not the person who's like, well, I got a Lamborghini now. I want to turn you into a Honda. Like that does not make sense. And I feel like a
I
lot
like
of
that.
a lot of relationships, and I only can speak for men. I think a lot of men, they all want this fancy car, but then when they get this car, they don't want no one to see that car anymore, or they don't even want to drive that car anymore. Like, why? I'm about
Yeah.
to. Hey, everybody's gonna see it. I'm gonna give it a paint job too if it needed to be a paint job, anything. But everyone's gonna. I'm gonna be your. I'm gonna be your super fan. So that's anytime she posts something or do anything, like I quote that Usher superstar lyrics all the time. Like I'm a fan.
Yeah,
So
there's
I'm
that.
also a supporter. So
Yeah, and there, as you mentioned, like, there you made a kind of like a designation there. There's the fans, and then there's people that like really understand it. and it's a lot of it is a fantasy that they're obsessed with, or what they think of it is a fantasy, and it's not the real thing. um I find that creates so many problems, like right off the bat, because it's already imbalanced
Hmm.
and you
It's
just not on the same page.
I think that's the tough part for a lot of women in the sex work industry. Like, how do you determine the difference between fan or someone understanding the lifestyle, or what can they handle seeing? Well, that just comes down to a lot of questions. You're going to have to ask that person a lot more questions, and actually you're going to do a little background check on seeing how do they interact with others. Because that's the biggest thing. I can tell you whatever I want to tell you, but you should be able to judge on how I treat others. That's in your line of work, because there's a lot of guys I know, in particular one fan that got with a particular adult actress, and he said he enjoyed life, but then at the time he didn't switched up. So
Hmm.
that's what it is. They think they can like it until they actually in it.
And I also feel like the financial thing.
Yeah.
They some of the guys they get with the women and then they realize, yo, she's making way more money than I am. And that it's an insecurity. It definitely punches them in the nuts and they don't like that. So that's a lot of things. They have to be right within themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, it has a lot to do with masculinity as well. It
It
hurts the ego
Hmm.
a lot too. That's a whole other conversation. I could probably do an entire episode on that. Maybe I'll do an episode on that one day, one of these days. But going back to Rikki, how do you separate sex work and your personal life? Is there a separation, or do those two meet at some point, or does Jodi ever come like join you in your content creation,
Yeah,
or
he
yeah,
definitely joins. We
yeah.
actually, well, I actually created him a OnlyFans.
Oh shit!
Look,
The
he
plug
didn't
those
know
links
that
below.
he had those kind of talents. People just like looking at him. And I was like, take your shirt off. Now, if I like him with his shirt off, I know somebody else likes him with his shirt off and his pants off. So, so I control his not I don't want to say control, but
manage.
I manage his OnlyFans because majority of his fans are men, and he's a hetero man.
Mhm.
So, men as a whole, they can get a little vulgar. So I'm always like, he's like, I got a message. I'm like, all right, let me go check it.
That's such a fun dynamic, though. I love that how you both do that, and you're both incorporating that too. Like, just seems like a good team and a good partnership that both of you have.
That's the key to success. Teamwork made the dream work.
Sometimes he's taking my pictures, like I'm putting on my makeup. He's helping with the backdrop, all that. So
Yeah, teamwork makes the dream work, right? And I mean, speaking of which, and I know this episode's going to be airing long after this event, but both of you are going to be at Exotica, which is coming up in Chicago pretty soon too. What can we expect from your booth, or what can we? Yeah, I mean, since the event's going to be over by then, but still.
Well, I mean, this is our third one. This is our first time in Chicago's Exotica. So we've done Miami, we've done New Jersey. So from the booth, she's gonna be giving lap dances.
yeah, so this year we added one new, I guess, trinket. I got a what's it called? A spin wheel.
Mhm.
So
Ooh.
we can make it more fun because at first we just had merch and they can take pictures, but I want to actually engage.
Yeah.
And I think with Exotica, we're the only. I don't see couples. I really didn't see couples as vendors.
And especially as minorities, I guess you would consider us
Yeah.
as minority
People,
couples.
POCs, like, there's no couples. If they were couples,
they're in a couple X part, and
there are no minorities.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I really want to quickly go into that, being a POC couple, and also just being a person of color, because I just came back from my very first event. I went to the Why Not reunion this past 2 weekends ago in Tempe, and I was one of the only people of color there in attendance as like as an attendee. So it was like a lot of this, like I'm very white.
Yeah. I mean, Exotica's that way. I mean, the people of color are just put in one little corner usually. So we actually are the few that actually get near bigger booths of having our booth. So it's different.
We definitely noticed a lot. So I don't know how we got lucky with the position of our booth, but we will be by big names, like big brands.
Yeah, Bad Dragon
And then
those.
and we'll walk around and they'll have a black girl tucked in a corner, or they'll have a group of POC, just like their booths are all together in one section.
What?
And we did notice this as well. So last year they had me in the category, the genre of ebony and Asian. But this year they took me off Asian and just had me as ebony. And I'm like,
oh. My face right now, I'm like,
yeah. So, and then when they see me, because once I have on my makeup, I can accentuate my features. And they're like, huh, you are black. And we definitely see the Asian, but you're so tall. And I'm just
like, oh my God. And I mean, like, and with one of your like aliases, TheeBlackAsian as well, it's just like, come on.
and
How do you feel about that?
They have the pictures. I do feel a way that they took me out of the Asian category, because that's a part of me. That's definitely, I grew up like not realizing why I had certain features, and then once I learned, I was like, oh, I get it. And then, for them to have me as ebony and Asian and then take me off this year, it's kind of like,
something ain't right there.
Something's not right. But we do get a lot of love because we are minorities.
Yeah,
who
it goes both ways.
are a couple,
right? And they give us a lot of love. We give it great. Our booths are not just our particular booth is never tucked away, so they like us for the most part.
Yeah, and I think they like the duo.
Yeah,
I think everyone, as we move along, even when we like court women or go on dates and everything, I want everyone to feel comfortable with us, and I want them to get the I guess the equal amount of energy, masculine and feminine energy, for both of us, so they don't feel like, oh, I'm on a date with two individuals. I want them to feel as if we're a unit.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're at these events, I want, I don't know, the staff to feel like, oh, it's them, it's Rikki and Jodi, like one unit, not just it's them two people.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I mean, that's really cool. I mean, this event happens 3 times. Well, I think 3 times a year. I think it is, all in the States. I don't know when the next events will be after this, but for next time,
Miami, July. In July.
Yeah, there you go. I was like, I know it's sometime in the summer, but I can't keep up with all the events that are happening. So I'm like, But well, are you guys going to be at the one in Miami again this year or no?
Yeah, we should be. Or no, I think we were going to be at XBiz in Miami.
Yeah,
they have
fun.
one in Miami. So
There we go. Well, you could look out for Rikki and Jodi and XBiz because this episode will be out. And we can promote that, but we'll plug those links in the links below. But I think it's time for us to move on to some Q&A because I feel like we've gone a little bit over, but also because I just love this conversation so much. So it's a lot of stuff happening here, but some questions from the audience. So let's get started here. So this person wrote in, can a one-sided sex worker couple work in a monogamous relationship?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they can. But the person who's not in sex work has to understand what's going on and also be secure within themselves. And the person who's in sex work needs to know how to communicate with the other person and let
Yeah.
them know what's going on. So it's definitely one of those situations where you have to listen and you have to be vocal at the same time.
And communication is just not one time. I think that's where we mess up a lot of times. We're like, I told you in the beginning, like, no, I need you to reassure me every 3 weeks, once a month, however, just to tell me like where you stand, because we always continue to change. So continue to communicate.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that too, listener. I think Legal Smash wrote this in. Yes, they can definitely work because I'm a sex worker and my partner is not at all in the sex work community at all. So how we make that work, I just overshare all the time. So I'm always talking about work. I'm just always being like, oh, this happened at the club and this idiot and all this stuff. Or like, oh, can you help take some like photos for my OnlyFans and stuff? I try to include them and incorporate them because I think it's important to do that. And it's important for me to do that because that's my way of communicating. And to show like, hey, I'm going to be safe. I'm going to be okay. This is fine. And this is what I do. And to show how normal the work is or how mundane the work is because it can be really mundane at points. So yeah. So thanks for writing that in. We have this person. Next few questions came in from someone who's in the polyam community. So Justin Erickson writes in, you have a post about scheduling sex. Does that interfere with sex work? And you wrote in brackets, having a similar approach to how it happens? Or does sex work create problems for that time with a partner?
So the post he's referring to is in regards to our Instagram posts in regards to scheduling sex. It shouldn't interfere because you have it on the schedule. It's on the calendar. Anything else that's schedule's supposed to be flexible, and depending on type of sex work you're doing, she's more into doing OnlyFans, and a lot of stuff is done home, or if we have a scheduled date or whatnot. But it's always been scheduled, so it doesn't interfere with anything. I mean, that let you know the anticipation. Let you know, like, yo, I'm having sex today about between 8 p.m. and the morning. So that's the best part. It's just it meets your partner's needs and your needs because we can get busy. So let's schedule some sex. Like, yo, I lost track.
Ricky, do you have anything to add to that or you're good?
You got it.
Okay, so next part of the question here is, even in the polyam community, do you find that people don't want to date a sex worker?
I honestly no. I maybe because I've been a sex worker for so long, I don't really come across men or women who are like, I don't want to date them because they're no, I take that back. Women, most monogamous women, or even some poly women, they don't want to deal with men who are porn stars or
Oh.
strippers. I feel like it's more, I guess, acceptable for the men to want to date a stripper or a sex worker or content creator, porn star, whatever. But I do see women saying like, "Oh, I can't date a porn star. Oh, he's having sex with all these women." Da, da, da. So yeah, I do see it. but it's the opposite.
Gotcha. Okay. Makes sense. Interesting. This next question is specifically for Jodi. So what type of massage services do you offer? Any sex work related, like sensual massages? Do you keep those services separate, as in your therapeutic clients don't know that you do sensual sex work? And I know we were talking off air about this, but yeah, feel free to go off.
I do hot stones, cupping, lymphatic drainage, prenatal massages. I also team up with someone else to do couple massages. I do not do sensual massages. Um, I paid to go to school, and sensual massages is something I can learn, or I knew how to do way before. So, them are the service like the person asked the question in regards to my therapy clients. Like I try to keep it very professional because I have men and women clients. So those worlds can't mix for me. That's all. Um, let's just keep it just plain. And most of the time, people are not getting aroused while I'm giving massages. They're literally asleep within 25 minutes.
Now you know they be sleeping 5 minutes.
So no, I'm not gonna myself, but yeah, they usually sleep. Right? So now, I like I said, I consider myself a manual meditation therapist because even my whole spiel when they're laying on the table, I ask them to fully relax, go to any dimension they want to go to. So it's more of the therapeutic part and the healing part. This is let me turn you on. And trust me, your blood's gonna flow. Normally, like even for men, some men may get aroused, but they're not conscious when they're aroused. Their body is normally the blood is flowing there, and they just aroused like that.
So no, he does not do those
happy endings or
those sensual massages where the guys hold up the girls and be like,
that's not proper form.
Sorry. Sorry to burst your bubble.
But my massage is very healing. So if you really want to relax and sleep good that night, that's what I do.
Go contact Jodi, everyone. Links below in the show notes. We have just a few more questions here that I almost forgot that's on my Twitter. So I'm just going to read this out here. This one comes from Political Mindscape. What does compersion look like for you two? So for those who don't know what compersion is, it is the opposite of jealousy. Or what I would describe as the opposite of jealousy. Like being happy for people. I don't know. How do you describe that?
we're not jealous beings, so
I'm a lover of love. So if someone's happy, I'll be happy for you.
Yeah,
that's the main thing. Winners love winners, and lovers love lovers. That's how you should look at it. So it's no jealousy. Even if somebody comes along and make her happy, like I want that for her more than anything.
Same here.
I love that. And I feel that with you guys in terms of like this whole episode. I really feel that. I feel you guys are really cohesive as a unit. Just talking to both of y'all over the past hour. But there's a couple more questions here. What kind of boundaries do they set, if any?
Boundaries.
I mean, someone asked us this earlier. Like a boundary for me is if he sees someone or finds someone that he feels that he wants to spend more time with, I want to meet that person because we live together, and whatever the other person does can affect what we have here. So it's always good. It's almost like when a kid wants to go spend the night at a friend's house, that parent of that child wants to meet the other parents because you just want to know the outside source.
Yeah.
Right.
It's inviting someone into your energy. You want to know who you're dealing with. Because things latch on. especially if that particular person may make me upset or make me feel a certain type of way, I can transfer the energy in her way. You still want to know, she want to know what type of person I'm dealing with, or type of person, vice versa. So the boundaries is still, tell me if you're interested in someone else, or just communication. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be communication. That's the boundary line. Like,
a lot of people don't understand what communication is, though. So, most people say, "Oh, you gotta talk, and no, that's the second part, and sometimes it's the third part. The first part of communication is actually listening to understand what the other person, where they're coming from, what they're trying to say. Then you can figure out what your response is gonna
Yes, all sound advice right here, right now. And lastly, same question here from another question here from Political Mindscape on Twitter. Like both sex workers and poly folks face stigma with healthcare providers and counselors. Have they? I'm not really I'm not sure if I understand that question.
I think I read that question earlier. I didn't understand it, but if they're talking about as far as getting tested and everything, um, that's very important. So we get tested. I feel like majority of the time when we do deal with someone outside of just us, we're together, and testing is very, very important.
Even if you weren't in the sex working world, like,
you need to get tested.
You got to get tested. I think people who are not in the sex work world are the last people to get tested. They get tested when something happens.
Mm-hmm.
That's when they feel like they need to go to a doctor when something happens. Basis like preparing yourself before any encounter that you have. So, I mean, I hope that answers his question.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't really sure exactly what the question was, but I think that is a good interpretation of it and a great answer too. And I'm glad we were able to address that too at the end of the show. But before we let you go, where can we find you two?
So I'm gonna start off with his. Is it at Jodi Love Raw or
No.
Oh, I don't know. Jodi Raw, like rawr, on everything, right? On Twitter, on
Instagram,
and TikTok.
TikTok.
He's popping on TikTok.
Ooh, okay. I'm gonna plug those links in the show notes below.
And then we have our couples pages. On every social media, it's Rikki and Jodi. That's
Rikki, Rikki, and Jodi, Jodi.
Yeah.
No Y's.
No Y's. And then you can just go to my website. It's hoochipapi.com, and then I have all my links to everything to find me, because IG keeps messing me up. I always so.
That's a thing, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
They can't delete the website, though.
Well, Rikki and Jodi, this is so much fun over the past hour. I feel like I've learned so much, and I just feel like we could have just kept talking for like another hour or two. Such a big topic, but for everyone else listening at home, I forgot to shout out the Patreon subscribers on the top tier who get this video access. Hello, Arab Sarkar, Justin Erickson. We also have Karen Zen, and we also have let me check my notes here. And I'm missing Jay Suncern. Thank you for subscribing to the top tier. There are also 2 lower tiers as well that we have some lovely subscribers on. But bad recognition comes from the top tier and the second tier. So thank you so much. It's patreon.com/stripbysia, as well as Strip by Sia and all podcast platforms. So don't forget to like, rate, share, review on Apple, rate 5 stars on Spotify if you're digging the show. And I can be found on Twitter, Strip by Sia, as well as Instagram, same thing. And then hopefully one day my official website will come out, but it's supposed to be stripasia.com. You can contact me there. And that is it, everyone, for this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed getting to know Rikki and Jodi this week. And if you have questions, don't forget to tweet them, go subscribe to their pages, and follow them and all the things, and maybe see them at a future Exotica show. Okay? Thanks, you two.
I appreciate
Thanks for having us.
Bye. You're listening to Stripped by Sia, hosted, produced, and edited by Steph Sia, music by Ted D, graphic design by Maria Bellandarama, and photography by Ian Dabrin.